welcome to another edition of GRA's Let's Talk Tax. I'm Anita Huber. It's always a pleasure to have you join us, and today it's absolutely no different. I hope that you found our discussions over the past weeks interesting, and that we make, through these discussions, we help to make your interactions with the Ghana Revenue Authority easier, but also we give you an idea as to the sheer number of activities and so on that the Ghana Revenue Authority is involved in. This week it's absolutely no different because we are talking about ozone depleting substances. It's a conversation we've had every year for the last couple of years. And through this discussion today, we hope that if you've never heard about the ozone or how it's being depleted, you'll get an idea as to what's happening and how the Ghana Revenue Authority, and Guyana to be more precise, is working to help alleviate ozone depleting substances. Joining me on the program today, I have David Herbenstein. He's coming back. We haven't seen him in a long time. Manager, Container Scanner and Goods Examination. And with him we have Zainul Rahman. He is the consultant attached to the Ozone Action Unit within the Ministry of Agriculture.
Yes.
Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, the bit about the ozone is something that we hear about time and time again. We heard there was a big hole in the ozone. We heard it's getting bigger. We heard that that's probably the reason why we have all this heat and the hot sun we're feeling these days. So before I get to David, let me get to the consultant, Mr. Rahman, who probably can give us the scientific explanations.
Yeah, well, the ozone hole was caused by certain substances, chemical substances which were man-made, that destroyed ozone in certain parts of the atmosphere. And it particularly happened over the poles, the polar regions, and then began to creep more to the latitude, the lower latitudes. It was discovered in 1985, this destruction, and the need to put something in place. So the Montreal Protocol was developed in order to protect the ozone layer and stop the destruction. So what we were implementing in Guyana as part of a group of 140 or 35 countries worldwide is an effort to alleviate this destruction of the ozone layer, introduce new substances into the industry that would use the gases and the chemicals that deplete the ozone layer, because there are several substances that are in use that destroy the ozone layer.
All right. So just so we get this clear, when we talk about the ozone layer, we're talking about something that kind of caps the Earth?
Yes, it's a gas, a layer of gas that is about 3 millimeters thick if you compress it.
Right.
That's around 25 to 30 kilometers above the Earth.
And what does it do really for the Earth?
Actually, that layer of gas, it blocks the harmful UV ultraviolet radiation from entering Earth's atmosphere.
Okay.
That radiation is a high energy radiation. So when it gets into the Earth's atmosphere, it melts the ice faster, it warms the atmosphere, and so therefore it contributes to general global warming and heating.
So which is why I said earlier that perhaps Zainul will be able to give us the explanation for the heat. So we're beginning to get a sense of perhaps something is wrong with this hole. Is it getting bigger?
Well, over the years, scientists have been monitoring it and have found that it has been increasing in size at certain times of the year due to the polar winds taking up substances into the ozone layer at certain times of the year. And then at other times, the hole seems to be slightly smaller, or the destruction of the ozone layer slightly diminishes. Now, it was forecast that ozone regenerates itself naturally. So it was forecast when we stop using these chemicals and we reduce the venting of these gases and chemicals into the atmosphere, the ozone will repair itself. However, it has not been doing so at the rate we expected. So they had predicted that by 50 years.
It will happen.
Yes, but I guess it'll take a little longer than that they did so.
That was a good explanation. I think we just had a science lesson. We know that this layer is being destroyed. We know that what it does, it protects the Earth from harmful UV or ultraviolet rays entering into the Earth's atmosphere. And when that happens, if it happens that the ultraviolet rays enters, then it causes the polar caps to melt and cancer. Yes.
Damage to animals, cataract in eyes of animals and human beings, yes. Because mutation of genes.
Right. So those are interesting things you're mentioning because
Yes.
sometimes you look at some countries and you see there's an upsurge in certain diseases
Diseases
and
and
so
so
on,
on.
and you want to
Yes.
know why that's happening. Very often, if you take a look at what's happening in the atmosphere, that could be very well a reason. Now, Zainul mentioned some substances, and we're going to let David come in for just a little bit. I know he's anxious to talk to us, but Zainul, tell us about the substances because I'm sure everyone at home wants to know what exactly are these substances that contributes to the destruction of the ozone layer.
Well, they are the refrigeration gases used in the air conditioners and ice making machines right now. Those are called R22 that's the trade name, R22. And the halogen gases contained in fire extinguishers. Now, some fire extinguishers carry dry powder, carbon dioxide, and water, as we know. But there are air conditioners designed for specific uses, for example, in the airline industry, where if there's a fire on board, you need to put the fire out, but you have a couple of hundred people or persons on board. And you want to take the plane down back safely, so you do not want to destroy the equipment and so. So they have designed this halogen extinguisher to put out the fire and allow the equipment to still continue working normally so the plane can land safely. And that's in the best interest of everybody, on board and on the ground too. So we face, well, the world generally, industry has phased out the use of the halogen usage in other normal applications, like in electronics and so. They've replaced that with other extinguishers. But in the airplane industry, they are allowed to use that there. In the other industry, the ice making and air conditioning industry, they have alternatives now that they've been introducing into the market that is ozone friendly. And these are what we would like people to start using more. Yes.
All right. Now, I recall on our program last year, we did talk about hydrochlorofluorocarbons. It's a bit of a tough word, so I'm going to say it slowly. It's hydrochlorofluorocarbons, hydro or HCFCs. This was an abbreviation that came up last year. We talked about it a lot. And so often if you go to buy electrical, prior it was refrigerators that you had to check for. Now if you're getting your air conditioning units and ice makers, you look to see if there's that little stamp that says it's free of these things. It doesn't have to have that. And one of the things, because Guyana imports many of these things, we have many businesses that do it. Of course, we need a body to monitor to make sure that they are bringing the equipment they're bringing in, the electrical appliances and so on, meet those standards as decided by the Montreal Protocol that Guyana signed on to. So, David, that's your task. Well, the agency's task, the Guyana Revenue Authority, that's part of what you have to do. You have to monitor. So, tell me about your monitoring.
Well, thank you again for being here. And the monitoring of those substances would come as a result of the signing of the protocol, of course. But the government, I'm sure, decided that the best agency to monitor is the Guyana Revenue Authority because, of course, they have the Customs and Trade Administration as a part of that organization. So what they did is that they have made into law the Trade Act, which becomes a part. It's interwoven with the customs law, where the Commissioner General has been given a certain authority under the Trade Act to enforce these regulations in terms of persons importing these items that has the ozone depleting substances. Now they are the gases themselves, the gases by itself, and also the equipment containing the ozone depleting substances. So the customs officers are required to monitor these imports to ensure that these gases does not come into the trade. And also the Ozone Action Unit, by the same token, they are responsible also to get the data to come to the customs and get the data to ensure and to register what has been coming into the country.
All right, but that is also, that forms part of Guyana's response to the Montreal Protocol. I'm sure there are other things that are
Yes.
happening so to monitor. Now, from time to time, we have to tell you, we have some guests, some other guests with us. It's not often that we get a chance to meet, you often see us here and we have just one set of people on stage, but today we have some visitors with us and we're happy that they came. A little bit later on, they're paying keen attention to our discussion, and that's because they have some questions for us. And so the learned gentleman here with me will take those questions. So you'll be hearing from them. If we can just have another look. So see if you recognize your son, your daughter, a cousin, a friend. And they've got big smiles, so it's good to see. Very often when they come, they're a little bit scared, but we're happy that they're paying attention to this conversation and they're going to participate in it in just a moment. What's the other responses that Guyana has to this Montreal Protocol?
Well, education and training is very important. So since the field is a technical field, since 1998, we have assisted the Government Technical Institute to restart the refrigeration and air conditioning program, which was dormant, by the provision of equipment and so. And we have had consultants and other technical skilled persons come into the country to train our custom officers and custom department. We've developed manuals, training manuals for them. We've also had a consultant do a revision of the curriculum for the refrigeration technician course, so that it fits in with the modern and the improved technology, which is the replacement of the HCFCs or alternatives.
And when you talk about the replacement, even doing that, when you have to replace it, it's a process, and you can be harmed in that process. So I'm assuming that you train them as well on how to handle it
to
carefully.
recover gases and so on. We
it.
have assisted companies and technicians with equipment to do that. And also we have provided training to technicians who operate in industry and private. So we run training programs for technicians.
All of them?
Yes.
Everybody together?
Technicians on the road and so, and then we certify them as having been trained, because a lot of our technicians were apprentice-trained technicians who operate, but not in the formal education system. They hadn't passed through that.
Okay.
But they still are being allowed to operate. However, we start the conversation with the technicians to have them group together again, so they can try to control themselves in terms of their operations, do not vent the gas into the atmosphere, have better practices, and understand the new technology. It's not scary.
It's not
It's not scary, no.
One of the things I have to come back to David for this, it's a little bit of a back question. We have so many very big companies that are bringing in the products. Do you have, are there specific things that you look for when they are, so let's say for example, I'm trying to think of a company, like Quartz, they bring in all these items. I'm just reading a lot of new companies, or companies that have been there for a while. They're just advertising new AC units and so on. Do those go through some sort of rigorous inspection by the Ghana Revenue Authority in conjunction with perhaps someone from the Ozone Action Unit?
Well, I think the correct answer to that is they ought to go through some rigorous inspection, because, for example, some time back, there was an issue with one importer who felt slanted because he was complying and bringing in stuff that fits the requirement, while he claimed other persons were bringing in the
what is not
appliance
required
with the ozone depleting substance. So there was a big court action on all of that.
Really?
So we are under obligation to go through these and check the labels. The labels are very important, because when the equipment comes in, the officers should check the label to ensure that the right refrigerants are in those equipment. And I want to go back to what Zainul was saying about training, because very soon, we'll be also training not only customs officers, but the customs brokers, so that they can inform their clients and say, well, here, this might be a banned substance or this might be a prohibited substance, so that they can come into line with what is required.
Well, it does seem like a process, and I know that Ghana Revenue Authority, that they have consistently been talking about the Montreal Protocol and their responsibility in monitoring and so on. Well, I have to tell you, we're at the halfway mark. Can't believe 50 minutes went by so quickly. So we want to now turn our attention to our guests. And I know that so far, I hope that the discussion we've had has sparked a question or two. So we certainly can take a question or two from our guests. So we have a question from one of our guests, our in-studio guests, and her name is, what's your name?
Safina Stephen.
Safina, welcome to our program. We're happy you joined us today. What's your question?
Apart from seizing the product, is there any other penalty the importer will face for importing ozone depleting substances?
All right, that's a good question, Safina. I'm sure that my guests are going to have a good answer for you. But I want to talk to, I think we have another person who wants to ask a question. So I'm going to ask him to ask his question, and then we are going to come back to our panelists. What's your name?
Romaldo Hector.
Hello, Romaldo.
Hi.
You're good?
Yeah.
Enjoying the discussion so far?
Yes, glad to be here.
All right, good. So tell me, what's your question?
The question is basically, I want to know what's the alternative substances you'd be using instead of the gases?
All right, Romaldo, thank you. That's a very good question. Thanks a lot. All right, back to our panelists. Who's going to take the first question? Is that going to be you,
Well,
David?
I will attempt the first one. I would want to use a milder term than seize. What we will do is detain the products and give the option for them to be retrofitted. That's why they were training where persons were trained as retrofitters, so that the importer will not lose their investment. So what will happen there, they go to the wharf or to the bond, wherever, and they put the right substance in the equipment, and then they're released for sale to the public.
So you're saying it's not a harsh thing the Ghana Revenue Authority is doing. You don't want to, I guess, I know a lot of people this is how they make their living. So this is the job they do. They have people, your gas runs out in your fridge or so, your unit, you call them and they come and they regas it. Yes. You have the AC man, you have the fridge man. Those are the men you call, right? So you're saying we don't want to put them up, we don't want to take away their livelihood, but we're giving them the opportunity to learn the new techniques and to get retrofitted.
Yeah, well, the new technology were introduced, but we might be talking about two different things. I'm talking about unforced importing new equipment. It can be retrofitted. And then for those who are importing gases, well, we are more strict with the gases. They may not be allowed to enter because we have a quota system where we are supposed to phase out by a certain time. Of course, we've already phased out with the CFCs, which is the chlorofluoride carbons. But now we have up to a certain time, Mr. Rahman may tell us the date.
For the HCFCs.
For the HCFCs.
Okay. So just so you know, thank you, Serafin. That was a good question. So there's not an automatic seizing. You work with them.
Yeah.
All right. And so we have Romaldo with the second question that talked about how do you, if you are getting rid of one set, what do you replace the substances with?
Well, Guyana does not produce any of these substances. So actually we buy what's on the market. And since the developed world have been cognizant of this harm to the ozone layer, they have developed new substances and they have developed equipment also to use these new substances. So right now we have equipment coming with a gas with a trade name R410A, which has replaced the use of the R22 or the HCFC in most of the air conditioning units. Also, there are hydrocarbon alternatives, which is natural gas that you can use in the air conditioning sector.
All right.
So persons have been trained to use the gas, the hydrocarbon gas, as well as the replacement R410 gas.
I know there was this, I think in our last year's discussion, can't believe it's a year that we've had this conversation. there was something about aerosol cans, perhaps, that
Yes.
might also have been a little bit so. Because I'm trying to think about people at home and what they can do.
Yeah.
Because when you think about the ozone layer, you might say, well, I don't have an AC unit, and I don't have an ice maker, so I don't have to be responsible. But we'd like everyone to get involved and to become responsible, and at least to think about the ozone layer and how you can help to heal it,
Yeah.
for want of a better word. So, is that still an issue, the aerosol spray cans?
At one time, the CFCs were used as propellants.
Right.
And they would be putting the cans under pressure to propel an active ingredient, especially for hair sprays and some other applications. However, they've replaced that CFC in the spray cans with other propellants. But there is one use which I must make mention of here that is allowed. And HCFC is allowed in the metered dosage inhalers. Those people who suffer from
Asthmatic conditions, right.
The active ingredient is a very small amount of chemical, but it needs a very harmless gas that does not disturb and damage your mucous membranes and your sensitive layers and lining of your breathing
nose and
system,
so
your
on,
respiratory system. So CFC gas has been found to be wonderfully capable of doing
It's a
that.
bad thing, but it's also a good thing.
Well, it saves
Saving
lives.
I'm just
Now,
thinking it saves lives, yeah.
so that is one of the exemption case for
So those are for your
yes,
the
that's
inhalers.
critically used exemption, and that's allowed by the Montreal Protocol in any country. For medicinal purposes, you are allowed to use that gas.
All right. So I hope that Serafina and Romualdo, I hope we were able to answer your questions. Do we have any more? Do you have any other question? I'd like to take it now. Question?
Yes, I have one more
it's you
question.
again. Go ahead. I'm interested.
Yeah, I would like to know. Yeah, I would like to know what you're doing to stabilize the gases that you're removing.
How you stabilize it?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
In terms of getting rid of them.
How do you get rid of it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know that we started answering that a little bit earlier. Anybody else has a question? Any of the other young ladies? The gentleman at the back? All right, let's hear. Can you stand for us, sir? What's your name?
My name is Joel Blackman.
Joel, hi.
Hello.
Hi. Are you enjoying the discussion?
Yes.
Okay. So what's your question?
Is there a website we can go to find out more about ozone
And
its-
how you can save it?
Yes.
All right, great. That's a good one. I like it. Thank you. So Joel Blackman, and with our last question, we don't have any other, right? Okay, good. Oh, we've got one more. What's your name?
Lisa Peters.
Lisa. Hi, Lisa. Go ahead.
How is this Montreal project beneficial to Guyana as a developing nation?
Okay, how is it beneficial? We'll tell you that in a moment. So, two quick things. Just a correction, Lisa, it's the Montreal Protocol. It's a protocol. So it's something that we signed on to. It's a bit like a treaty between two countries, and you say, look, I'm going to do this. And it's a number of countries that have signed on to it.
Yes.
It's not just Guyana. Guyana is one country that's part of the Montreal Protocol.
Yes.
Let's start with Lisa's question.
Okay, when Guyana signed on, they knew Guyana was a developing country, and low volume consuming countries are categorized as Article 5 countries. And thus you qualify for certain assistance and benefits. And some of these are technical and financial. So they sent in consultants and they did a survey to determine what's the extent of usage and the type of usage in Guyana. And from that, they prepared a country program. And then in the country program, they put projects for us to phase out the use of the gases we were using then. That's since 1998 to 2000.
That's a long time.
A long time back. So from since then, we have been assisted by the Montreal Protocol through the Multilateral Fund and the United Nations Environment Program, and also our partner, United Nations Development Program, to develop other projects and to bring in funds needed to drive our phase-out activities across all the areas. Public awareness, training, education.
Something like
customs,
this,
yes.
getting on things like
And,
this and educating the public.
Yeah, and also to make our presence felt when we have exhibitions and local events.
Right. So you understand that, Lisa? They do get a lot. You do get a lot of help, but also I think the bigger deal is that now that when you go to buy a refrigerator or you're buying an AC unit, you can go knowing that these gentlemen, the GRA, for example, have already checked it out, and so it has really safe gases for you. So your family will be safe. If something happens and it has a leak or something, you won't be endangered. before we go to Joel's question, we'll talk about Romaldo's question about
Yes.
how you dispose
Well-
and how you stabilize the gases when you're getting rid of it.
Some of the units that we have technicians had to service and take out the gas, we would have recovered it and put it in cylinders and store it. And if that gas is clean, that can be reused, it's used back again. Otherwise, they're stored for destruction. Guyana doesn't have a destruction facility.
Oh, so what do we do with it?
The only way we can destroy it is by re-exporting it to some country that has such a facility.
And do you do that?
You need at the moment, no, because there are other conventions that now come in to the re-export of dangerous and chemicals and so on.
Oh, so that's another discussion altogether.
It's another discussion altogether. There are other treaties that you have to
Sign
seek
on to?
prior. No, you have to seek prior consent to allow these chemicals and
To leave
to
one-
leave your country to go to another
another
country.
I hope it didn't scare you, Romaldo. But at least we're doing something here. So it might be, but it's stored in a safe place. Where we
Yes,
store it is
we're
safe.
storing it. Yeah, we're storing it in a safe place.
Mm.
But these chemicals can only be destroyed by burning them. To burn them, in order to burn them, you need a high-intensity furnace. And the only two countries around here that has that facility is Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela, because they make cement. And cement requires that kind of high-intensity furnace. So, and the temperatures that they reach can easily incinerate the chemicals, right, without them escaping into the atmosphere.
And that is really the key thing. It doesn't escape into the atmosphere. Joel wants to know about the website. Do you have a website that we can go to?
Hydromet department has a website, www.hydromet.gov.gy.
Okay.
And you will see some information on ozone issues and so. And also, the United Nations Environment Program has a website, unep.org, which is worldwide.
And you can
that
go
gives
there.
general information on what the international efforts has been and what they're doing. Sometimes they have country programs that they can share with you.
Now, I know most of these observations, because it will be the Ozone Day. Is it called the Ozone Day?
International Day for the Preservation of the Ozone Layer.
Right. International Day for, it's a long title, I have to say.
Preservation of the ozone
Of
layer.
for the preservation of the ozone layer is on September 16.
September 16.
And do you have a theme for
Yeah,
it?
the theme for it is 30 years of healing the ozone layer.
That's it.
Yeah, because in 1985 we signed on and the protocol was developed in 1985.
So 30
years
years then.
hence, we've been saving the ozone layer.
Well, we're glad that you are, and we want you to continue saving the ozone layer.
Thank you.
Thanks to my guests, all of you. I'm so happy that you came, and I trust that you had a good time with the discussion. Might have been a little bit scientific, sciencey and a little bit nerdy, but I hope you enjoyed it. David, thanks again for coming this week. We're happy that you did. David Hermanstein is the manager, container scanner and goods examination, Ghana Revenue Authority, and he was joined by Zainul Rahman, consultant, ozone action unit out of the Ministry of Agriculture. That's all the time we have this week for our program. I'm going to see you all next week right here, same place, and I'm looking forward to your company then. I'm Anita Hubert on behalf of the production unit of the Ghana Revenue Authority. So long now.